What's good, YouTube? It's your boy JusticeXFalls. We back at it again with another video. And today we're looking at a game I didn't think we would really see any more of. I thought it was just gonna enter development hell and never be seen again. And this RoboCop Rogue City. We looked at a trailer for this before. We looked up the game developer. Didn't really have any games that rung any bells to me. But it's RoboCop, bro. That's something I grew up watching. I'm kind of aging myself. I was a little kid, when the RoboCop movies was coming out, and this looked a little bit interesting to me. So I got a hands-on preview, and we're going to check it out. So without further ado, let's get to the video.
Over 35 years since he first stomped the streets of Detroit, RoboCop returns to the front lines.
Your move, creep.
Teyon, the studio behind Terminator Resistance and Rambo the video game, is primed for its most ambitious 80s action movie revival yet. Set between the events of RoboCop 2 and 3, with Peter Weller reprising his iconic role, RoboCop Rogue City takes us back to old Detroit once again to clean up the streets, promising familiar faces, a huge helping of explosive violence, and the franchise's gloriously stilted cheesy humor.
Allowing dealers to steal from each other may result in less drugs on the street.
What? That would suck!
Rogue City is a bloody first-person shooter that takes us on an authentic trip to Alex Murphy's old haunts to chase a new threat.
He got that semi-auto pistol. We're really pissed. Any
Rogue
pistol
City
is
opens with a now
already,
familiar
y'all know what I mean.
satirical news segment, which is
Got a switch on that bitch.
interrupted by a gang of punky thugs dubbed the Torchheads. This band of criminals is heavily tied to Nuke, the highly addictive narcotic from RoboCop 2, and they proceed to take the Channel 9 news team hostage. Enter Detroit's shiny RoboCop and his partner, Agent Ann Lewis, who are called to quell the disturbance and hunt down the gang's leader. This being RoboCop, restoring peace is done with little subtlety. Armed with his legendary Auto 9, RoboCop trudges methodically through the building, popping enemy skulls with each well-aimed shot. Despite his slow, tank-like movement, I've never played an FPS with a protagonist as slow and deliberate as RoboCop, and it took some time to adjust. He feels practically indestructible. He's so heavily armored he doesn't need to hide behind cover. He just soaks up bullets like a sponge. And if he runs low,
that's gonna be hilarious. That's gonna be hilarious. Look at all that shooting he was doing, and only took out 9 HP from him. And then he could. This is probably a heal. This is probably his heal, his healing. And then you got a Mac. You got a Uzi. And an auto pistol with infinite ammo. Like, this game is clearly just a nostalgia run. Like, that's clearly what all it is.
on ammo, no problem. Just walk up to the nearest criminal and punch a hole in his face.
Jeez.
As such, Rogue City immediately makes you feel like a boss-level threat, and none of its early enemies really stood a chance against me on normal difficulty. RoboCop can neutralize a room full of enemies within seconds, and thanks to his scanning abilities, you can sweep and clear the surroundings with ease. While this combat loop was satisfying for a couple of hours, I do question the longevity of it all. RoboCop will only get more powerful as the game progresses, and in the brief time I had with the demo, I didn't face a single enemy that posed a real threat. So where does the challenge come from? Hopefully that'll become apparent when we spend more time with Rogue City.
I think it will.
After a fiery first meeting with the Torchheads, I got a brief look at how Rogue City will tackle RoboCop's other duties. Alongside fights to the death with the main gang, you take on investigative objectives to poke around for clues at crime scenes and make arrests. RoboCop has no reservations about taking out hostile foes in one fell swoop, but some of Rogue City's side quests have him restoring order by more peaceful means. In one case, I could choose a non-threatening dialogue option to convince a suspect to part with valuable information about their whereabouts of a drug dealer, rather than making him cooperate. So violence isn't the only route you can take when chasing leads. In another side quest, my main contribution was simply carrying a drunk perp to a cell as a favor to another police officer. Furthermore, public trust is earned by interacting with Detroit's inhabitants, and there's a skill tree option that allows you to open up new dialogue choices to aid in your investigations. Detroit itself feels like a city in distress. The disheveled buildings and grimy streets are ripped straight from the movies, and the delinquents that lurk on street corners are more than just just set dressing. Listen closely enough and you'll pick up splinters of conversations that, when you piece them together, may provide clues about where to lead the investigation next or open up new side objectives. Rogue City is built in Unreal Engine 5, and despite a few frame drops and glitches in the preview build I played, its gloomy alleyways and neon-soaked shop fronts look slick and detailed. RoboCop himself looks fantastic too. Teyon has taken great care to recreating every grille and compartment on his suit, and the city lights gleam on his armor when you stop to talk to other characters, even if there are moments where the lighting doesn't quite hit right. Noticeable camera shake and the heavy thud of RoboCop's footsteps made me feel like a hefty tank when I was stomping through the streets.
Place looks deserted.
As you should.
Are you sure your junkie friend didn't mix up the venues?
He is the type who likes to mix things up. We shall have to see.
Fans will immediately recognize other returning characters like Anne Lewis, but the majority of character models aren't anywhere near as realistic as RoboCop's. The Torchheads have a selection of...
He doesn't even need backup. He, like, literally, like, these regular cops are just there for, like, dialogue purposes. Like, RoboCop never needed no backup.
Different hairstyles and outfits to differentiate them, but you won't be paying much attention to their attire when you're caught in a firefight anyway. This rogue city is a grubby and authentic step into Paul Verhoeven's dystopian Detroit, and it springs to life on your patrols. Between quests, you can use RoboVision to scan for nearby misdemeanors like traffic violations and disorderly conduct to ensure you clean up every nook and cranny of the city as you go.
You know what? If you really think you'll find evidence of that SUX ever being here, then be my guest.
Although RoboCop is still bound by his prime directives, I enjoyed the few occasions I was able to work around them to suit the kind of RoboCop I wanted to be. One side quest had me handling complaints at the police station, where I had the chance to decide whether to side with the individual or issue a ticket. In situations where things can turn violent, players will sometimes have the option to take a pacifist approach. There's certainly room for empathy in your interactions with the people in Detroit, and keeping them happy will increase your public trust score. Nonetheless, in the few investigations I've conducted so far, I was still met with plenty of opportunities to exercise RoboCop's silly humor, and sometimes that means being a little heavy-handed. For example, during one quest, I had the chance to utter a stiff one-liner before smashing up someone's radio because it was too loud. Was this unnecessary? Definitely, but justice was served.
You need to be taught some manners.
RoboCop starts with a few base abilities, including night vision, a shockwave that mimics a flashbang, and the option to temporarily slow down time to clear a room quicker. Aiming down sights scans the surroundings to highlight nearby enemies to make them easier to spot, and he can also move faster, shifting from a slow, deliberate stomp to a heavy, brisk walk. Additionally, these abilities can be upgraded to improve their effectiveness and in some cases, turn them lethal. For example, continuing to invest points...
I saw some nice chunky damage getting put on RoboCop there. I would say, okay, all right, so it does get a little bit more difficult as you move along.
In the combat branch of the skill tree eventually buffs Robo's shockwave to instantly kill enemies, whereas sticking with armor upgrades his suit so it deflects bullets to damage enemies. RoboCop's potent primary weapon, the Auto 9, has its own tab of upgrades that are unlocked throughout the game's 20 to 30 hour campaign, but I didn't get to see any of these enhancements in action. Players can also pick up firearms dropped by the city's lawbreakers and use them for a limited time. However, I typically stuck with the Auto 9 due to its reliability and unlimited ammo. There are also exploding barrels, hefty CRT monitors, and more to fling around Rogue City's destructible environments, all of which work well as makeshift grenades. I only encountered human enemies during the demo, a couple of whom wore helmets for extra protection, and some that carried exploding barrels. But more recognizable enemies, including ED-209 who featured in the trailer, won't appear until later in the game. There's no escaping RoboCop's trigger-happy approach, and nor would you want to, but ultimately he's still a police officer instated to uphold the law. As such, there are several skills that build on Robo's eagle eye.
I mean, I think that's part of why they made a robot, because the robot is going to be emotionless. The robot will not hesitate to shoot, you know. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I am a RoboCop fanatic. I don't remember the story and how RoboCop came to be. I think he was a real guy at one point. I don't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but you know, I fear that that's what we're gonna be dealing with in the future in real life. And I live in New York. I don't live in New York City anymore, but I go down there. I live, you know, further upstate. I think I explained that to y'all before, but like, if they start putting these robots out there and arming them, they're already talking about putting robots out there you know, but they talking about arming them, making RoboCops. Like, shit's gonna get ugly. That's all I want to say.
And lightning speed processing powers, which come in handy when you're searching for clues. Some objects, and indeed people, can be scanned to get more information during an investigation. There are also instances where you need to pause and collect a specific number of clues to analyze crime scenes. This is where Robo's deduction and engineering skills shine. Deduction provides enhanced scanning abilities, which help you detect more useful information such as safe combinations. Then, if you've leveled up your engineering skills enough, you can crack open the safes themselves. Arguably, the most interesting side of RoboCop is his psychology branch, which leans into the game's choice system. Investing enough in the skills doubles your public trust points and later lets you predict the consequences of certain dialogue choices. According to the developer, the decisions you make throughout the game will impact Rogue City's ending, although we're not sure to what extent just yet. Rogue City's game director says that some choices will determine which side characters live or die, but we'll have to wait to see how much of an impact this has on the story. Your choices also have consequences that may surface sooner than that. These can be almost immediate, such as coaxing out information that provides a lead in a case, to more subtle ripples later on. For example, letting a kid off with a warning for graffitiing may lead to you getting a favorable mention scrawled on a city wall down the line, opposed to something hostile. One thing that Rogue City doesn't shy away from is RoboCop's flashbacks to his life as Alex Murphy. This surfaces almost immediately as an ongoing malfunction, and it's something OCP is eager to fix. This side of RoboCop is clumsily handled in the movies and never truly reaches a satisfying resolution by the end of the second film, but the game's developer assured me that this will be an important part of Rogue City's story. Combined with the dialogue options and decisions players can make, I'm keen to see how Teyon dives into the lingering human fragments in RoboCop's memories, and whether they'll have a more meaningful impact on the story this time around. Overall, Rogue City has the makings of a faithful homecoming for RoboCop fans. The demo immediately nails the franchise's exaggerated badass tone, and it's pumped to the gills with humor, violence, and all of the movie's callbacks you'd hope for. However, I'm curious to see how Teyon plans to maintain RoboCop's momentum to keep combat feeling fresh and introduce more of a challenge as players unlock new abilities and upgrades. I've only played through Rogue City's opening missions and didn't have a chance to test the game on different difficulties, but I was a bit disappointed that I didn't get to see a wider variety of enemies, or face a real threat that forced me to use RoboCop's full set of tools. While some of RoboCop's abilities sound promising, it's difficult to predict how much of an impact they'll have on the game's combat loop without trying them against tougher enemies. After recently watching the movies, I was excited to step into the shoes of a powerful action hero and tear through Detroit. RoboCop certainly feels capable of doing so, but I'm concerned that simply bulldozing through enemies will lose its appeal quickly. I'm also intrigued by the idea of seeing more of RoboCop's interactions with other police officers and the public, but as of now, it's too early to be sure how deep Rogue City's choice system really goes. Detect more useful information such as safe combinations. Then, if you've leveled up your engineering skills enough,
I like how like it has branching paths of skills. We haven't seen the skill tree yet, but the way he's talking, it's like it's gonna be a very expansive and diverse skill tree. I like that.
You can crack open the safes themselves. Arguably, the most interesting side of RoboCop is his psychology branch, which leans into the game's choice system. Investing enough in the skills doubles your public trust points and later lets you predict the consequences of certain dialogue choices. According to the developer, the decisions you make throughout the game will impact Rogue City's ending, although we're not sure to what extent just yet. Rogue City's game director says that some choices will determine which side characters live or die.
Most of the time, that's a gimmick, like unless it's like Mass Effect or something like that. Mass Effect level choices and stuff, like you ain't really gonna affect the ending unless there's like, or like a Grand Theft Auto 5, like the fact that there was like 3 different endings, like, you know, a lot of games say they do it but really don't do it. There's a very small percentage of games that actually do, your every choice throughout the game does lead to different dialogue paths and different endings.
But we'll have to wait to see how much of an impact this has on the story. Your choices also have consequences that may surface sooner than that. These can be almost immediate, such as coaxing out information that provides a lead in a case, to more subtle ripples later on. For example, letting a kid off with a warning for graffitiing may lead to you getting a favorable mention scrawled on a city wall down the line, opposed to something hostile. One thing that Rogue City doesn't shy away from is RoboCop's flashbacks to his life as Alex Murphy. This surfaces almost immediately as an ongoing malfunction, and it's something OCP is eager to fix. This side of RoboCop is clumsily handled in the movies and never truly reaches a satisfying resolution by the end of the second film, but the game's developer assured me that this will be an important part of Rogue City's story. Combined with the dialogue options and decisions players can make, I'm keen to see how Teyon dives into the lingering human fragments in RoboCop's memories, and whether they'll have a more meaningful impact on the story this time around. Overall, Rogue City has the makings of a faithful homecoming for RoboCop fans. The demo immediately nails the franchise's exaggerated badass tone, and it's pumped to the gills with humor, violence, and all of the movie's callbacks you'd hope for. However, I'm curious to see how Teyon plans to maintain RoboCop's momentum to keep combat feeling fresh and introduce more of a challenge as players unlock new abilities and upgrades.
I think they'll probably just put more enemies on the screen, or give them higher and additionally give them higher caliber weapons. And then he mentioned that robot that you fight, so there'll probably be more enemies like that. And maybe there'll be new enemies that they introduce specifically that's exclusive to this game. You never know. We'll see.
Play through Rogue City's opening missions and didn't have a chance to test the game on different difficulties, but I was a bit disappointed that I didn't get to see a wider variety of enemies or face a real threat that forced me to use RoboCop's full set of tools. While some of RoboCop's abilities sound promising, it's difficult to predict how much of an impact they'll have on the game's combat loop without trying them against tougher enemies. After recently watching the movies, I was excited to step into the shoes of a powerful action hero and tear through Detroit. RoboCop certainly feels capable of doing so, but I'm concerned that simply bulldozing through enemies will lose its appeal quickly. I'm also intrigued by the idea of seeing more of RoboCop's interactions with other police officers and the public, but as of now, it's too early to be sure how deep Rogue City's choice system really goes. For more on RoboCop Rogue City, check out the latest trailer, and for everything else, stick with IGN.
I think we reacted to this one already, but yeah. I'm actually walking out of that feeling more confident about how the game will be. Again, my only concern, which is what he mentioned, was okay, enemy variety, because if this game is going to be like 6 to 10 hours or 6 to 12 hours, you know, after a while you are going to get tired of beating up the same enemies. Like I'm playing off stream and offline, you know, I'm not making any more content about it. Gungrave, I made a video about that, Gungrave Gore, and I was playing it the other day and I'm just like, yo, this is getting super repetitive. Like, it looks cool, it's fire, I'm having fun, the environments look crazy, but it's just like, it's getting repetitive, so I just kind of cut it off. Like, I can only play that game in spurts, like 2-3 hour spurts, and there's 31 levels in that game, like, and I'm only on level like 7 or some shit, so I got a long way to go before I finish the game, but I'm a power through it, you know. So it's just like enemy variety can, you know, make or break a game, you know, because obviously if you're you're a game developer, you want players to be on your game often and for long periods of time. But you know, when it's like that, when it just gets so repetitive, after the initial shock value wears off of, oh shit, I'm RoboCop, then, you know, that's when it gets a little boring. But let me know what y'all think. Are you a RoboCop fan? Have you never even heard of RoboCop? Is that like before your time? I wasn't born when the first movie came out, but by the time I was growing up, I was like 5-6 years old, and the second and third one was coming out, I knew what RoboCop was, and I went back and watched the first one, and I liked it. So I might like do like this guy did and go back and watch the movies, just to refresh myself on the lore, and then I'm definitely gonna play this game. Let's see when it comes out, because we don't know when this game comes out. I don't even think this game has a release date yet. Let me check real quick. September. Okay, so we're in July. We're in June, July, August, September. Wait, hold on. June, July, August, September. 3 months. Damn. 3 months. Are we gonna be right back in the fall already? Sheesh, yo. This year's going by fast. Like, hopefully we hit that 1,000 subscribers in that time period, cause we about to hit 600. We at like 593. So y'all go ahead and like up this video. Like up the video, comment, get it in the algorithm. You know, we upload every day. We talk about the latest and greatest gaming content. We have funny and adventurous gameplay here. You know, let's get it. But y'all let me know if y'all gonna cop this game. I'm definitely gonna cop this game now that I've seen this little preview. You know, I was wondering how it would look, and it looks cool. It looks faithful to what RoboCop is. So y'all let me know what y'all gonna do. So y'all already know the vibes. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. This your boy JusticeXFalls, and we out. One.